Hey, welcome to Beards and Bibles. This is Johnny,
I'm Andy.
and we are here to talk about beards,
Bibles,
God,
and manliness.
And it must be remembered that we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history. That the air battle is continuous, and that many preparations have to be made here too. You ask, what is our policy? I will say, it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, with all the strength that God can give us.
Today, we are going to be talking about 5 different struggles that men have and 5 ways to overcome those struggles.
So the first thing that men deal with on a regular basis is lust.
Yeah, so lust is a big deal for men, just because it is something that, that we kind of can't help. We're only supposed to think about, desiring our wives, and that's the only one. But, as men, it's hard. Men think about sex up to 19 times a day. And, it's one of those things that we kind of, it's there. We're men.
And that actually is a myth. There's a myth that's been going around for a really long time, Johnny, that actually said that men think about sex every 7 seconds. Well, according to WebMD, in just the 16 waking hours that a man has during the day, if it were true that a man thought about sex every 7 seconds, we would be thinking about sex over 8,000 plus times a day. And honestly, nothing would get done during the day if that's all we thought about every 7 seconds. So guys, if you're one of these people that's been told this myth, or ladies, if you're watching this and you've told someone this, it's just not true. Because honestly, if men only thought about sex every 7 seconds, if every 7 seconds a guy thought about sex, there would be no cars or buildings or houses or food or pretty much anything. There would only be about 50% of it because, men are 50% of the population, women are the other 50%, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
We wouldn't even get through this video.
Yeah.
7 seconds in, boom.
Sex.
7 seconds more in.
Boom. Sex.
Ooh, yeah, boobies.
Just not happening. We've got more important things to think about than sex. So that is a myth. It's men only think about sex 19 times a day on average, and women on average, they do think on it less. They think about 10 times a day. The average woman thinks about sex. But that is, it is still a struggle that men have. And there are ways to overcome that struggle alone. So the pastor here at our church has found an app that we like to use. We're not sponsored by this app in any way whatsoever, but it's a great app. Johnny, tell them about it.
It is an app called Covenant Eyes, and basically what it does is, you have accountability partners that if you was to get on a pornographic video website, see a pornographic picture or anything that's rated mature, then your accountability partner gets a notification. Hey, such and such. Like if Andy was my accountability partner and I was to slip up and look at something, and he would get an email saying, hey, Johnny's looking at this site. And it helps a lot because if somebody is going to get an alert, you're more likely not to do it. So instead of I can look at something right now and nobody will know because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm by myself. No, somebody's going to know. So that means the thought gets out of your mind. You don't even think about it because you're so used to, I can't do anything.
Right.
You can put it on multiple devices.
Yeah, you can put it on iPhones, Android devices. You can put it on tablets, iPads, computers, Macs. Pretty much if there's a screen built, and you can access that screen and do something on it, then there's probably a Covenant Eyes app for it. But I do want to throw out there, Johnny, that Covenant Eyes is not the only app that's out there.
No, it's not.
There are, quite a few other successful ones. There's one called Lion Browser that's specifically for iOS. Mm-hmm. There's Accountable to You. There's a number of different programs out there. And guys, honestly, if it is something that you struggle with, I will say that Covenant Eyes, there is a cost upfront, a monthly cost for using that program. And if that's something that's just not in your wheelhouse or something you're just not able to afford right now, there is one simple step that you can take that will help you begin to win in the battle against your lust. If you want to help fight it, just go up to your wife and tell her that you're struggling with a lust addiction.
Oh, my
and I
wife
guarantee
will kill
you
me.
that she will help you just like that.
Just like that. She would say, "Oh, you dealing with lust? I ain't good enough for you." Pow!
Yep, yeah, and it's, I mean, listen, there are definitely ways to combat this. Job 31, verse 1, read that for him, Johnny.
Job is basically saying here that he's making a covenant with his eyes that he's not going to lust after a woman. And it says, "I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid?" So basically him making a promise to God that he's not going to do any, like he's not going to lust. And after, a maid, it says. But it's basically what he did is he set up a safeguard so that he couldn't fail.
Yeah.
And that's basically what the app that we use is. It's a safeguard. It's planning to be weak whenever you're strong. I know that there's times that I'm not feeling as confident that I'm not going to fall right now, but I've got to prepare for those times, just as Job was preparing for these times whenever he was strong. So that's like with any temptation.
Yeah.
Any temptation, if like you're battling with drugs or alcohol, then don't hang around the people that you used to hang around.
The first step in fighting any addiction is always going to be setting up safeguards against yourself to help battle those addictions and be able to remove those temptations from your life as much as possible. So that is the first thing, the first struggle that men deal with. The second one there, Johnny, is living up to other people's expectations. What do you think about that?
I think living up to other people's expectations can be very hard. The thing about living up to other people's expectations is you're never really going to be good enough no matter what you do, because their expectation is going to change. They are constantly, it's like a constant move with what they want. So if you're trying to live up to other people's expectations, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be where you want. You're never going to succeed, because even if you do what they want, then they want you to do something else. That's just like when Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, and he parted the Red Sea. Jesus let him part the Red Sea. They got on the other side, and then they're just like, okay, we want to go back to Egypt now. So even though that miracle happened, and I can't even fathom that. And I want to ask Moses one day, hey man, how was it like? But even though that they went to the other side,
it took them literally it was a matter of a couple of days, and they were begging to be taken back to Egypt, because all of a sudden, life got hard and things weren't all peaches and cream like they thought it was gonna be. So it's always hard to live up to anybody else's expectations. Whether it's a lot of times married men, we deal with father-in-laws. With mother-in-laws, we always deal with living up to their expectations. And I can tell you right now, you're never going to live up to your father-in-law's expectations. You're never going to live up to your mother-in-law's expectations. Even if they love you above all things in this world, they still had this dream of who their little girl was going to be with when she got older. And I can guarantee you, even if you are ripped with a set of six-pack abs and the greatest hair in the world, and a six-figure salary, and you are in church every time the doors are open, but you're also at every sporting event that your kids have ever had, and your wife gets a set of 40 roses every single day, there's still something more that you could have done for their little girl. Exactly. Trust me. Quit trying to live up to other people's expectations, because it's not going to do you any good whatsoever.
Exactly.
The third one, Johnny, is living up to your own expectations. And this is a hard one right here.
Oh yeah, it's living up to your own expectations is so hard because you think like I'm 30 and you're what 34?
34.
He's 34 and we're if we was to get into our own minds and feed into where we think we should be by now, we would get depressed, miserable, and think that we're not good enough for anything. I'm 30. I should have this. I should have a a certain house. I should have a certain car. I should be through college. I should be no matter what your circumstance is. There's always something that you think that you can do better, or that you should where you should be right now.
Yeah.
So living up to your own expectations can be. I mean, I'm not saying don't set goals. You want to set goals and you want to crush them because that's what men do.
Yeah.
But don't think of the end goal. Think of tomorrow.
Yes.
Because you have control over what you can do tomorrow. But you don't, you have to take those steps.
And one of the biggest reasons that we can't live up to our own expectations the majority of the time is honestly because of the fact that we can't control the world around us and we can't control the things that happen to us that are out of our control. Sometimes things just go wrong. Sometimes you just don't get the grade that you were looking for on the exam.
Boom.
Sometimes you just don't get approved for that loan. Sometimes the car that you dreamed of is just a little bit out of your price range. Sometimes that big nice house that you wanted also is really, really overpriced. Yeah. And you shouldn't have been looking at it in the first place. So don't get too caught up in not living up to your own expectations. But Johnny, I think one of the things that summarizes not living up to your own expectations and not living up to other people's expectations is not living up to the expectations of the world, which is number 4.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is one of the hardest things to overcome right there, because we live in a society right now that tells men that we shouldn't be men.
Exactly.
That tells men that masculinity is now toxic.
Don't stop watching. This is true.
It really is. Masculinity is not toxic.
No.
Now, there are things that are toxic that men can do. Being a chauvinist, thinking that men are the only good people out there, never trusting women. Yeah, that's toxic.
Yeah, it is.
But being a masculine presence, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But the world wants you to believe that it is. The world also wants you to believe that when you hit a certain age, when you hit 30 years old, you should start having your life figured out by that point. By the time you hit mid-30s, you should already be, really putting money into that good old 401k and building up your retirement plan and have a really locked in low rate on your life insurance policy, and also have a certain number of kids because that's what everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
And honestly, it's just a load of garbage. It really is just a load of garbage. The only expectations that you should ever need to live up to are God's. And what does God call a man to? What expectations does God call for a man to have?
He calls for a man to look like a man, act like a man, provide for his family, and put him first.
That's it.
That's it.
That's literally it. You do those things right there, and you have lived up to God's expectations. And by doing those things, those 4 simple things alone, you'll be able to meet all other kinds of expectations that other people might have for you.
That is true, and I used to play the devil in a thing called Tour of Hell. It was a biblical representation of what hell was like. Mm-hmm. And in one of my lines that I would say as the devil is, you thought that you could go along living like everyone else, but living like everyone else only robs you of what you really wanted. What I really want in life is to be, an evangelist. I'm already an outreach pastor, but a pastor over my own church. I want what God wants from me, but I'm also obsessive over guitar, over other things. And if I was to feed into them on, being, I want to be the next Jimi Hendrix, I want to be the next John Mayer or Eric Clapton, if I was to feed into that, I would be missing on what I really wanted. And you don't want to be like somebody else. You want to be like yourself.
Exactly.
And yourself should be a manly man, one that acts like a man, works like a man, talks like a man, and puts God first.
Worships his God like a man.
Yes, worships him like a man. Don't care what if you feel like raising your hands, raise your hands. If you feel like praying, drop where you are and pray, because there is nothing to be ashamed of, because you are a man and you've got this, and you being a man will lead other people to God and respect you.
And actually, it kind of perfectly segues us into our very last point, the very last thing that men deal with. The fifth thing that men deal with, that men struggle with, is not feeling like a man.
That's so true. I know that, I'm 30 years old and I still watch Ninja Turtles. I still watch, Power Rangers and all that, just because I grew up watching that stuff. Does that make me less of a man? No, it just means that I'm holding on to my youth. But most men don't actually feel like they're an actual man until they're somewhere around, I don't know, anywhere from 35 to 40, because they still have that youthful spirit. So just because you're 18, 19 years old, yeah, you are learning, but you still are a grown man. And that goes up to us, in the 20s, in the 30s, even above that, you are still a man. Don't let yourself feel like you're anything less of a man because you can't do something that somebody else can't. Because we're all unique in the eyes of God. We're all different. He's different than me. I'm different. He's very good at media stuff. He's very creative and clever. I am, I don't know.
You're getting there.
I am getting there.
You're getting there. And one of the things that I think needs to be said about feeling like a man and not feeling like they are a man is no two men are made the same. Yeah. And no man can be defined by what the world says that a man is. Because if you looked at what the world is, what the world says a man is, number one, they don't know what a man is.
Exactly.
Because up until 10 years ago, a man was a guy that went out and he drank black coffee every morning, and he grew facial hair, and he was muscular, and he had hair on his chest, and he had hair on his chest, and he wore a certain kind of boot, and he drove a truck, and all this stuff. Well, number one, I drive a minivan, and I don't hunt. I like to fish occasionally, but I'm terrible at it. Johnny, on the other hand, he drives a truck, he fishes, he hunts, he does all that stuff. But Johnny wouldn't call me any less of a man, nor would I call him any less of a man. There are men out there who like poetry. There are men out there who like music. There are men out there who absolutely love to paint or to be artistic. There are men who love to play music. There are men who like to watch TV. There are men who like to watch movies. There are men who like to play video games.
Yes.
And just because you have those certain things in your life that you like, it doesn't make you any less of a man. It makes you a creative, unique creature in God's kingdom. That's all that it means. Exactly. It means that you are a unique child of God. And that's what the world needs. Because, honestly, I think back about what the Apostle Paul said when he talked about trying to relate to people. He said, I become all things for all people. Paul didn't want to be just one cookie cutter Roman Pharisee. He didn't want to be one cookie cutter Jewish Pharisee. He understood that he was a mixture of both Roman and Jew. And he was also a Pharisee. And he realized that none of that mattered because his identity got wiped completely away when he became a man in Christ. If you're a man in Christ, you've literally got everything you need to know about who you are. Let God sort out the rest. So guys, those are 5 things that men struggle with on a daily basis. And honestly, don't feel alone, like you're the only person that's ever struggled with those things, because both of us, we've both struggled with those things at multiple times. And it's not going to be the last time that we struggle with them. So there is an answer out there. That answer, I think, is Jesus.
It is exactly Jesus. He's the one that gives you peace, joy, love, understanding. Anything that you're lacking, He makes up. In your weakness, He is made strong. So basically, if you don't feel like a man, there's nothing more manly than accepting Jesus into your life. There's nothing more manly than taking your kids to church. There's nothing more manly than even being romantic, because David, he was romantic.
Yeah.
He would write songs. There's nothing more manly.
Solomon.
Yes.
Solomon. Gosh, that whole book.
Yeah. But there's nothing more manly than
That
following
dude went 50
Jesus.
Shades of Grey in the OT. That happened.
Yeah. But
So
if
we totally went off topic there for a second, but that's okay.
if you're having struggles as a man, the only answer is Jesus.
Exactly. But listen, there's nothing wrong with trying to reach out to other masculine presences in your life.
True.
I know that I wouldn't be half the man that I am if I didn't have friends like Johnny and examples and role models like our pastor to look up to. And it's weird that I say I look up to this guy because he's actually younger than I am
And shorter.
But it's having those other masculine presences in your life that really can help make the difference right there. So guys, we hope that this has been helpful to each one of you. We hope we've not taken up too much of your day. We'll probably try to make a shortened version of this and make it short and sweet for all you people who have really short attention spans. I am in that category. And with that being said, John, you got anything else?
All that we got is this is Beards and Bibles, and stay beardy.
Stay beardy.